It's time for our tropical forecast. I'm Dr. Jim Siebert, and we have something just barely in from the National Hurricane Center. Tropical depression number 7 has formed out in the Atlantic. So we know about Fred. We'll get to Fred in just a second. This is what we've been tracking. In fact, it's so brand new that it hasn't even updated on my computer as of yet. It was potential tropical cyclone number 7. It's now tropical depression number 7 and will become tropical storm Grace over the weekend. And we'll get to more of that in just a second as well, because obviously we got a big concern when we got this going on here. Now, Fred is still a tropical depression, but it is expected to start to strengthen. It isn't amazing that these two storms, look at how far apart they are, and yet following a very similar pattern. Now, that's going to be important for us here in Southeast Texas, that what will be Grace is doing very similar what Fred has been doing. So let's get to it. Now, this is tropical depression Fred. It's still interacting with Cuba, and so winds are at 35 miles per hour. It's just kind of slogging its way through. It's got mountains on one side, the Bahamas on the other side, and it really hasn't had a chance to organize. Now, as it gets to the end of Cuba here, and starts moving towards Key West and out into the Gulf of Mexico, it will start to organize again. But it's not going to have time to really get its act together to become a hurricane. So we do think by tomorrow, Saturday, 1 o'clock in the morning to about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, somewhere in that time frame, once it gets out into the open waters, will become tropical storm Fred again. And then expected to take its path. It's moved a little bit more to the west, but it's not really going to change anything for the impacts on Southeast Texas. But it is going to have different influences for Florida, probably somewhere around Panama City is where it's going to make landfall by early Monday, possibly. So it looks like it's slowing down. In fact, the fact that it's kind of slogging through those mountains in Cuba is going to slow it down a little bit more. And then it's going to take its right-hand turn and then produce more rainfall for the east and the southeast. They're going to be seeing that over the next week or so. So now let's come back here. Tropical depression number 7 is going to come all the way through, stay a tropical storm as what Fred did, and it is almost a very similar pattern. Now, what's different though is that it's starting a little bit north of where Fred started. And so it looks like it'll go just a little bit more to the north. And so once it gets closer to Florida, it'll take that right-hand turn and it's going to be a Florida problem again. And at this point, looks like it would be Tropical Storm Grace, not Hurricane Grace. Obviously, we're getting towards the height of hurricane season where one storm after another starts to come through. As I've been looking at those long-range models that go out like 2 weeks, this is what the pattern is showing, that these storms are going to continue at least in this manner, at least for now. So let's go all the way out here to Africa. Okay, now this is kind of a different view, and I don't normally show you this, but this is what's happening. So this is the tropical satellite coming off of Africa, and so it's hot in Africa. You got these storm systems that are coming off, and so you can see them here. I mean, there's one, there's another, and here's another as it starts to come out into the Gulf, and so into the Atlantic, I should say. So they start off as waves of energy. That's just all they are, waves of energy coming off of Africa. And then the ones that kind of stick together just a little bit, those are the ones that we're going to watch very closely. Now, one that comes off a little bit more to the north up here, we're usually not worried about for us in the Gulf of Mexico, because if it already starts north this way, it's going to go to the right. It almost always happens that way. Now, the ones that I watch are the ones that come down here a little bit more to the south. The further to the south they are, the better chance they have to come into the Caribbean, which then would push it towards the Gulf of Mexico. And right now, there's nothing out there that indicates that that's going to happen. So that's what I'm watching. On the long range, I'm looking here in Africa, but in the short term, we're watching what's going to happen with what will become Grace over the weekend. And of course, Fred is going to be a problem for Florida all the way into the weekend into next week. And that's kind of a wrap up of what's going on right now. Don't forget our hurricane names. So we're down to Grace. After Grace, it goes to Henry and then Ida. So we are going to see those eventually, but right now, nothing's pointed towards us in the Houston area or the Gulf of Mexico, in the Southeast Texas area anyway. But of course, we'll keep an eye on it very closely. That's our update for today. Have a good one, and we will see you next time.